About you take your lessons, please, and turn to Joshua, the 18th chapter. We're in lesson number 7. We have one more lesson after this one, and we're coming to the last half of this wonderful book of history. When you look at the Bible, you say, well, it's a book of poetry and that sort of thing, and we have a lot of narratives, but it is indeed a historical book. Is it not? It's dealing with the history of the beginning of the world, and nobody was there to witness that but God, and He has been faithful to kind of reveal His word unto us, that we realize that was the beginning. And then history unfolds after that, and we get to after Joshua, then the king. So Joshua comes in to inherit the land with the people about 1400 BC, and you got David come along in about 1000 BC, and on up into the time of Isaiah 750, Micah, and the coming of Christ. And he's a historical fact. People understand that indeed Jesus did live. They may not believe He is the Son of God, as many do, but they understand that He lived. It's a historical fact. So therefore, these places that we're looking at in Joshua in dividing the land, and indeed it is something of a historical reality, and we can go to maps and find out where these places are, and where the land of Canaan was with all of the time before the Israelites come in, and then we're looking at the latter part of dividing this land up in Joshua, the 18th chapter, and through verse 21. So we begin with question number 1. Where did the congregation move and set up the tent of meeting? So we've studied Deuteronomy not too long ago, and coming into the land of coming up to Mount Pisgah, where Moses looks at the land, and then Joshua leads them on here in Joshua. They've been having a tent of meeting since the days of Moses, in the time of wandering. And they did that. They set it up, and they tore it down, and took it down, and then set it up again where they were. What camp have they been now? Where are they now before we get to this lesson this morning? They've been in Camp Gilgal, and that's near the Jordan River, and so that's kind of the central part of the Promised Land, as west of the river. And they've been involved in taking that land on the eastern side. Now we're dealing with the western side. And now we're moving to what place? I've stalled enough. Let's get it. Shiloh. It's Shiloh. And Shiloh is about 8 hours from Jerusalem, and we see in the central part of that area of Palestine. So it'll be a central place. And they could travel 8 hours and get there from Jerusalem. And then eventually we'll find the headquarters will be in Jerusalem under the kingship of David as he drives out the Jebusites finally. And therefore there's that place. Is Shiloh something that's going to be there a while for the people of Israel? And that camp of meeting is the tabernacle that is going to be there, and they move that. They've gone from Gilgal to Shiloh, and therefore that's where they're going to be. And what's going to be there that shows the presence of God that's important to them? The Ark of the Covenant, that's going to be showing the presence of God, the Holy of Holies, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant is. And the reason I bring up the Ark of the Covenant is that after we get into the Judges and we start getting into Samuel's life as a young one, Eli is in the tent of meeting. Where is Eli serving at the time of Samuel? Shiloh. His sons are evil. And we look at 1 Samuel, the second and third chapters, and into chapter 4, we'll realize, well, if we just had the presence of God, we could beat the Philistines. And yet he had 2 sons that were evil, priests. sleeping with women at the door of the tent of the meeting, all the things that they did. Eli does not confront them in the sense that he should. And so God is going to take them down. And Samuel's going to be one to have to break the news to Eli. So we make choices sometime, and they made a choice to do that, which is evil. But that's the cabinet in Shiloh. And what happens to that Ark of the Covenant when it's brought into the presence of the Philistines? It didn't go back to Shiloh, does it? And it won't go back there. And we'll find it'll find a place in Jerusalem when they get that back. So Shiloh becomes this place that is going to be around for a while where the tent of meeting is going to be placed. As they inherit the land, as they can travel pretty equal distance from any place that they are on the west and eastern side of the Jordan River. And that's going to be an important place for them. For the tent of meeting, God's presence is going to be there. So we have God's people being ruled, and you got Joshua leading the way. There are going to be judges that come along. And we've studied Judges not too long ago. What's the problem with what to see of a problem that's different from what we see here of conquering the land and setting up the temple, the tabernacle, and everybody's on board? What happens in Judges? They forget God. A younger generation didn't know Joshua. And the men who lived after Joshua, the people were pretty solid there. It only takes a generation or two without the teaching, without reminding, is that they turn. And so what is this? A constant thing. They would go against God. God would punish them with the people that are still left in the land of Canaan. And he would bring forth difficulty. They would repent. And then they'll be reconciled again. And they'll have a couple of decades. They have a different time where they'll be okay, and then they'll fall off the wagon again. They'll go back into their sin. It's just this recycling things that takes place to the point that indeed the people eventually they want a king. They don't like the judges. They want a king. God allows them to have a king, and we know the history out of that becomes a downfall to them as well. But here's the place where we're finding a change. As they inherit the land, this is where they are going to be, where the Ark of the Covenant is. All right, in question number 2, why had not the 7 tribes possessed their possession? Now, just can I get a hold of these chapters here? We're going to see that here it initiates what the issue is. And then from here, chapter 18, you'll find in verse 11, the lot of the tribe of the children of Benjamin. And we'll go into the 19th chapter. The second lot came for Simeon. Verse 10, Zebulun, on all through. And how many of these are we talking about? 7 that we're interested in our lesson today that are going to haven't received that. Now the question is, did you find any indication why the 7 had not possessed their possessions? It seemed like the 5's doing that. Caleb said, let me have it. And Judah, let me have it. I'm going to go get it. And why hadn't these people done that?
Verse 3, Joshua questions them, how long are you going to be slack?
Yeah.
So how long you just rest and not do what you need to do?
That's right. So when you're slack, you're just... did they want to just continue to be wandering around in the land of Canaan? You got some of those, there are people here, but people there, got people on the east side of the Jordan. Maybe we're just happy where we are, because that was going to take some effort. They're going to have to do some battles. They're going to have to drive the people out. And remember in chapter 17, when Ephraim wanted land, what did Joshua say, do? You're great enough. What do you need to do? Don't be slack. Go take it. So this lack of, it take effort. They were slack getting that done. And so there was some land still left to be possessed. We've already seen where you have Judah and you have Manasseh, the half tribe of Manasseh, and Simeon. Those pieces are in place. So it's that land between there, or as we'll see, the south of Judah, where that part is taking, that needs to be filled. And so they're going to divide that up. So lack of slackness, I think, is a great verse. That's the only indication that I have that indeed of why they hadn't done it yet. Anybody have another idea from Scripture? All right, question number 3. What were the 3 men of each tribe to do to remedy the problem? Joshua tells them that this is what they need to do. So there'll be 3 men from each of these tribes, and what were they going to do? Yeah, I say kind of survey the land and see what they have. Verse 8: the men arose and went, and Joshua, as Joshua charged them, they went to, my Bible said, describe the land. Looking at it, and they would look at features, mountains and valleys and water. These places they would understand. Here's land between these places. Go and walk through the land and describe it. Describe the land, and come again to me, and I will cast lots for you here before Jehovah. Where? Shiloh. Thank you. We're in Shiloh now. This is where its camp's gone to. Now, why would you cast the lots, let them fall, maybe if they're sticks or stones, and you have them in your lap, as Proverbs says, and you have them in your lap, and you fold them out there, why would you do that before Jehovah? If you're lucky today, yes, he's going to determine where it goes. And I think that's the whole point of doing that before Jehovah. It's just indication, and there's nothing inconsistent about that, and Proverbs is going to back that thought up. And so the men went and passed through the land and described it by the cities unto 7 portions in a book. They wrote it down in a book, and they came to Joshua in the camp of Shiloh. And Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before Jehovah, and there Joshua divided the land and the children of Israel according to their divisions, as God is guiding them to do. So if they felt like that this was unfair, well, God's behind it, so that would kind of end that. He settles the discussion. And they would occupy those particular places. So they have it recorded in a book. So indeed, as history unfolds, well, I think we own that part of the land. Well, this is how it's divided, 2 or 3 generations down the road, and God's behind that happening, and that was the remedy. So you have 3 from each of the tribes. Was that fair? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And really, here's where we're going to be, and this is where our people are going to be. Now we're going to go back to our tribes, and we're going to possess our possessions. The remaining distribution of the land was given out by lot. So here's the remaining, divided among the 7 tribes, is what I have in mind. It was given out by lot, population of tribe, or both. What say ye? Nothing. We know it's by lot, right? That's done before Jehovah. And I think he'll be taking care of where it's going to be for the population. He divided Manasseh in 2 places. He would be involved in realizing that. But could there be an indication that wonder if you thought your territory was too narrow for you? Like Ephraim. What did they tell Ephraim to do? Go take it. So what did they tell Dan to do? We come to the very end of this, dividing up in chapter 19. And let's go to verse 40 of Daniel, the 19th chapter. He's the 7th. The 7th lot came for the tribe of the children of Dan, according to their families. And the border of their inheritance was Zorah, and so forth. Verse 47. And the border of the children of Dan went out beyond them. For the children of Dan went up and fought against Lisham, and took it, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt therein, and it's called Leshem. Now, That's a long way, as we'll see in a map in a few moments. That's a long way from the dividing of the inheritance of Dan, where it went before God. God picked this one for them. Lot fell out to them. But we'll see that way up north, there's another place called Dan. And there is this city of Leshem. And they took it. So could it be we think our area is too narrow in the sense that we don't have because there were the enemies, and they did not have enough land because it was a mountainous, and therefore they wanted more land. By population, I want it divided, and God allowed that to happen because that's Dan number 2, 1A, because they went out and took it, just like he told Joshua, if you feel that way, and I think Dan felt that way. They went beyond that. They went so far away because the other land's been taken. And they end up north, and we'll see how far that was. So I picked C because of that. And but that was something that God was taking care of in the beginning. But if they indeed wanted to take more land and take out the enemy, God wanted them to do that because he wants those idolatrous nations out of the way as well. Any thoughts or comments on that? All right, question number 5. Name the 7 tribes that remain to possess their possessions. I hope you're not starting to do that right now. You can. But if not, just listen. Let's name them together. Would Benjamin be a part of that? Yes. What about Judah? No. And are you going to cross out Judah and say, Fite doesn't know what he's talking about? Why did he put it here? I saw a copy of this, and Manasseh East, Manasseh West, a big X through it. And I said, you think I didn't know that I put that there to make you work? But it's almost like I took offense to that because I did put this. Now, here's why I say that, because it's been a long time since I taught this, and I just noticed in my notes, I forgot to put Ephraim there because I didn't have 12, I've got 12 tribes, but I didn't put Ephraim. And I realized there's a reason for that, because we have Ephraim and Manasseh, they get one lot. We've already saw that. But I want you to know, I did that. I put all these in because there's some that have already received their inheritance. I want us to understand that. So we got Benjamin. Judah, you can cross it out. No feelings hurt. Simeon, is he in? All right. What about Zebulun? What about Gad? No, and why? Where's Gad now? Where's their division? Yeah, they're not even on the west side. That's right. What about Issachar? Yes. Manasseh East, Manasseh West, put an X to it. No offense. What about Asher? It's there. What about Reuben? No. What about Naphtali? Yes. And what about Dan? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, got 7 of them. We've got them right. And so that's that left side of that we see that's taking place. Now, when we go to question number 6, we see these places. Well, how do let's pick the cities. So we got the ones that we have here. We're going to take 7 of them. But you've got some cities here. So let's connect Benjamin with what city? What'd you say? Yeah, this is dangerous because you only got one answer you get. Jericho is exactly right. And you look at it on the map, well, that could be somewhere that's kind of on the border of things, but Jericho is connected with Benjamin, as we see there. Simeon, what did they get? Beersheba, that's correct. Zebulun. Rimmon. You don't agree with that? We'll show it on the map in a minute. What about Issachar? We were going good. Did we quit? Yes, thank you. Jezreel. What about Asher? So therefore, if I didn't have a map, because I've studied about Tyre, and that would be on the west side, near the Mediterranean maybe, Tyre, and we get Tyre and Sidon. So that's where Asher, that's going to be where they're located. What about Naphtali? I'm sorry, say it louder. Kedesh. And what other city? There's two here. Hazor is right. So Hazor and Kedesh are both of those for Naphtali. What about Dan? Got two here as well. Yeah, we kind of know there's Joppa, and that's going to be Dan, but he also gets Lesser. Why? They went out and took it. That was the point. And therefore, that became their possession as well. So you have, those are the cities divided up among the 7 tribes. So I know this may be a little hard to see, but you'll see where you look in the middle. Let's start with Benjamin. You see Jericho right near the Jordan River area. These are cities. Simeon, you got Simeon, Beersheba. You got Joppa with Dan. You've got Tyre with Asher. You got Kedesh and Hazor with Naphtali. So all of those towns are there. Joseph will take a place in Ephraim, right in the middle of, he'll get his possession, and right in the middle of Ephraim, because he was from that tribe. And he chose that, and God and the people allowed that to happen. So those are real places that we have, and who does Jerusalem go with? They go through Judah. It'll be with them. They would have that. That's already been done. So when you look at a map, you'll see these are the cities that were connected with that, and then they would have 14 cities, or how many cities, but they would also have villages here that they speak about the villages. What's the difference between the villages and the cities? You got one city there, and some get 2, and other cities are mentioned. But what are the villages? And what does that say to you about how the population was taken care of there? When we talk about cities, we have urban and what? Rural. And we got suburbs. After we get through the idea, well, everybody doesn't have a farm out there. We got suburbs. We get grocery stores and all that. But suburbs are out there. And these villages would be where they would have land for their crops. The cities sometimes were crowded with people where they would gather. Those were the principal cities. But they would also have villages out there to be taken. We see that with the Levites. They don't have a possession because God is their possession. But they had these cities that they'd be at, but they also had their villages. They would have livestock, and a place they would grow their grain and all of those things, at least for livestock and things like that. God would provide them with their sacrifices, but he allotted them that, even though they don't have a possession like to the tribe of Levi. So these are how these unfold, and I think it's interesting to look at these principal places. A lot of them were in central locations, but Dan is an interesting one because how far is Dan up here from Dan down here? That's a pretty good piece to go up there, and that's what was left to take. They didn't take it from their other brethren, but they took it, and that became part of the possession of Dan there. So, any comments or questions on that? On question number 6. All right, question number 7. We've talked about this in other lessons leading up to this. Not the first time we've talked about the cities of refuge. Let's get in our minds how this went down. The cities of refuge, what was their purpose? You killed somebody accidentally. Axe handle head came off and just hit him. And I didn't mean to do that. But it's something that highlighted something from after the flood that makes me realize I hadn't thought about this, and I just share it with you, the sense of how things were done, that he who takes man's blood by man, shall that man's lifeblood be taken by man. This is literally true taking place here. We talk about government standing in, and we think about that. Well, man can do that, and you know, could you turn the switch on the electric chair, or shoot the bullet in a firing squad, and could a Christian do that? And people say, I understand that's part of what God authorized the government to do. I'm working for the government. And that part could be there, but this was a time where the avengers of blood, and you look at that and you say, well, that's bad. No, it's not bad. It's what God has set these cities up to deal with. Because you took my brother's life, and did you do it on purpose, or was it accidentally done? And so you come to these cities of refuge, and you would then, what would take place? If you did something and they knew it was on purpose, could you stay there and be saved and be a sanctuary city? No. And we read here about those cities of refuge and get our hands in mind. So it would only be those who are innocent, not guilty. They have not done this intentionally. It was accidentally done. And they could flee to these cities of refuge. And there was 3 of them on each side of the Jordan River. We've seen them earlier mentioned. So there's those cities. But if the person was not innocent, he would not have a safe place there. How long were the people that were innocent, and it's determined there, and that's why the priests were in every city of the cities of refuge. There would be priests there to make their judgments. They could appeal to God to find out if they're innocent or not. They had access to getting that to war, going with a thumb and, God, I'm taking this before you. And God had a way of finding out if a woman was guilty of adultery too in these times. So God would be directing them to determine that. But if the one was determined innocent, how long were you? Well, I'm innocent, so let's get out of here. You could not just stay there indefinitely, but you couldn't get out there real quickly. What had to happen before you could leave and go back to your possessions? The high priest dies. And that was a case where those were the rules that you lived by. And if you got out of there, then you're open game for who? The avenger of blood. You're open game to them. But these are places you could find that for accidentally taking a life. Verse 5, if the avenger of blood pursue after him, then they shall not deliver up the manslayer unto his hand, because they determine he's innocent. Notice in verse 4, declare his cause in the ears of the elders of that city, and they shall take him into the city, and then we give him a place that he may dwell among them. And if the avenger pursue him, then he can't, because he smote his neighbor unawares, accidentally, and hated him not before time. We didn't have an issue. And he shall dwell in that city till he stand before the congregation for judgment, until the death. So we're going to be judged. So what was that about? Well, you're not innocent. Then you weren't going to be able to stay there until the death of the high priest. That shall be in those days. Then shall the manslayer return and come into his own city, in his own house, unto the city whence he fled. So this is a place of immediate problems. When death has happened, tempers are flared. This was a way of dealing with that particular issue. But I just thought, really, by man shall his blood be shed. So, well, all the people of Israel will be stoning people to death. I understand that. But this avenger of blood could be a man. And he had standing to avenge the blood of his relative. By man shall his blood be shed. I had thought about how that could literally be true and be right with God for that to take place. Avenging that, because here was something that was very, very important with God. And just to think, why is God so important with the idea of killing a man? Why is man important to God? And he said that after the flood. Yes. That's right, David. Man is made in the image of God. And animals aren't. And yet we care more for animals sometimes than we do for the life of men. Why are people able to just kill in our country right now? What have they been raised on? They've been raised on evolutionary theory that we came from monkeys. We're no different than that, and so therefore human life doesn't have that issue. Why is euthanasia of older people coming again popular? And governments don't have a problem moving you out of the way. Because man's not that important. With secular-minded people that indeed have no concept about God, don't care about God. They've been raised in our schools of higher learning, where the dignity of man, the distinction between man and women are being blurred. You can be one if you want that. It's no big deal. That distinction is not there. You can have a drag queen become a member of Congress and have a problem with that. Here's men trying to dress as women and all those things that indeed people are promoting. And the dignity of man is not there, where the people just trash that you could just throw away. We can't ever get to that point, because we realize man is created in the image of God. All men there, and we're to love our fellow man. We're to care about them. But here was the problem of something going against the dignity of man, that God said, "Those men made my image. You can kill a lamb, you can kill a donkey, you can kill birds, that sort of thing. They can be food." After sin entered the world, it wasn't a vegetarian diet. They could eat the meats, and we see it, the dietary restrictions on the people of God, not like the heathens do. There was that restriction. But killing of animals is not the same thing as the killing of a human being. And yet at the same time, a human being taking the life of another human being because he's mad at him, and that's not right with God either. That's why we say abortion is evil, capital punishment is not. Why? What would you say? There's people. You mean you're killing? You're killing? But that's the argument we have to face. And do you agree with that? Is abortion evil? Is capital punishment evil? No. Now sometimes it can be abused. I understand that, but that's the Bible, and the Bible doesn't mean anything to people a lot anymore. And therefore, the dignity of man is lessened. So when kids come along, they grow up. You make me mad, I take you out. You don't justify my feelings, so therefore I can murder you, and it's okay. And we see people maybe have mental issues in our country coming from other countries that are criminal. They've lived that life, and in order to get by, they don't mind taking a life. And we see that, and we say that's so sad. And our culture is deteriorating, but what is the remedy of that? Well, I'll tell you what, if you took away the knife out of that crazy man, that girl from Ukraine would not have been murdered. So let's ban knives. You want to do that? You're over in Australia, and they begin to determine that our young people are using machetes, and they're killing a lot of people. So they made a law that machetes are you can't have a machete. So we took the machetes and took the knives, and what does our country want to do? Take away the guns. What's the problem? It's not machetes, it's not knives, it's not guns, it's the heart of people. That's the only thing that's going to change things. And what are we doing with the Word of God? We're going to get our heart anchored, what's right, what's wrong, things I can't handle. I think about Ecclesiastes 3, where you see justice, where justice ought to be, you see injustice. And you realize that God allows that to happen, to test us, to try us. But he's going to take care in the end. So we leave it up. Vengeance belongs to me. So all the injustice that is done, it hurts, and it affects us. I want justice, and I get injustice. My land's taken away, or I'm incarcerated, and I'm innocent, and all those things. It happens, but the point is, God's going to take care at the end. But we're tested with that. And the only way we're going to be able to have a culture that we realize, justice is going to prevail. We want to do right. We don't lie. We don't steal. We don't murder. We don't rape. We don't do those things that we know that that's wrong. We're going to change hearts when we said it is wrong and turn back to God. I hope that happens. But we have an opportunity, and I think an obligation, to make sure that we teach the truth about who man is and call out what's being done. And of course, in our secular world, they deal with all these things, and they don't deal with the heart issue, because that means you're going to have to change your mind. And what has set forth, God has revealed himself and teaches us our morality. And we don't have that now. My morality is me, what I feel. And therefore you ought to feel that. If you're not, you're evil. And in some circles, I not only shout you down, I can shoot you down. And it's no problem. And that's a dangerous society, isn't it? There was a time before the flood came that people's heart was evil all the time. And what came along with evil? And I've never thought, when growing up, I said, oh, well, the flood, well, their hearts were bad. But there was something else, violence. Violence was in the world, wasn't it? What does that go? And I hadn't thought about violence, but I see it, don't you? You see violence in our culture that's happening all the time without it seems like nothing's been done about it. We got the political judges and letting them out, and it's just crazy. But that happens when you don't have your heart set upon God, who has given us life and made it precious. These refuge cities are realizing that is precious to God, and that becomes so important. Okay. Any comments you want to add to that? What was that was the purpose of it. Question number 8. Is it time? Okay. Lord willing, we'll deal with this next time. When could one rightly leave these cities after fleeing them? How priests? There were Levites in every one of these cities of refuge. We'll deal with that next time. Okay. And I thank you for listening and your comments.